welcome back. Conversation is ventilation. I am your host, the Shimmick, and we're glad to be here. Back down at sea level. Been up at elevation for a week, snowboarding, hanging out with some friends, eating chips, right? Eating pizza, having some laughs. So we're back down in reality now. Back down at roughly 600 feet. So can breathe a lot easier. Don't feel like a swollen bag of Doritos at elevation. Okay, so feeling good. Still wish I was back up at elevation. Rocking the gas station t-shirt. You know, sometimes you need a clean shirt. You realize you've been wearing the same one for a few days, and even the wife and the dog are going, bro, it's time to change your shirt. So we're at it. So today, let's dedicate this, before we get going here, to a fallen first responder. Kings County, California. Captain Mark Eads, 62 years old, 20-plus year career. He succumbed to a medical emergency while on scene fighting a structure fire. So this one's for you, Captain. The ultimate sacrifice, out there doing his job. And our hearts go out to his family and his friends. Kings County Fire Department, California, every first responder, every fire department in the world, anyone who's lost anyone, this goes out to everyone, and especially Mark Eads and his family, okay? So stay safe. Once again, this is for you, Captain. This feels like we're going to do two. All right, let's get going. On the plane ride home, I was thinking about kind of the ROI of CIV, and so we'll dive into that a little bit. We're shooting from the hip, like always, unedited, unscripted, unprepared. It's how I've lived my life for 48 years. It seems to be working. The bank gave me a house. I have multiple cars and a motorcycle and a pretty wife. So with that being said, shooting from the hip has been working. Why not continue on? Okay. So what was in my brain as I think, daydream, and stare off into the clouds as I'm flying home after a good week of hanging out with friends, snowboarding, and having a good time, is that what's the return on investment? ROI. Okay. What is the ROI of the CIV and what we're trying to do here? And just getting up here and talking nonstop for a couple minutes. What is this all going to get? Where are we going? First off, I don't know exactly where we're going, and I like that. It can be whatever it wants to be. I'm not pigeonholed. I'm not stuck in this little trap of this is what it's got to be. Obviously, I don't need to post every day, every week, every month. I'm going to do whatever I want, and people can come to me with ideas. We've got a few things brewing. Okay. Never talk about what's brewing until it's brewed. Write that down. So sometimes you just got to let things be what it is. And the beauty of all of this is the conversation. We've said it a million times. We'll say it 7,000 million more times. The beauty in all of this is simply conversation. It's that. It can be between you and your friend on a plane. It can be in a group. It can be on shift. It can be at the dinner table. It could be in an auditorium of 6,000 people. It's conversation. This is not rocket science. Conversation. Okay. Well, we started talking about and thinking about like how this kind of snowballs into things. And so here's the example that I'm going to use. We're bumping down the road in the fire truck, having a conversation. I'm driving, lieutenant's in the lieutenant's seat. You got a guy or two in the back, or a girl in the two. Okay. And we were having a conversation about something. It wasn't super heavy, but it wasn't light. It was a serious conversation, just kind of about, what we do. And we're just having a conversation. And when we got back, we continued the conversation and said, hey, that's really good what we were just doing. And they're like, kind of like, okay, what, explain. Well, sometimes the new guys, the younger guys, the less experienced guys need to see the older guys having simple conversations where they're eavesdropping. Because what's going to happen is it's too loud. They're in the back of the truck. They can hear, but they can't. It's very hard to communicate sometimes. And so they're engaged, but they're not engaging in the conversation. They're just listening. They're actively listening. And I started thinking about like how just simply being an older senior guy and having these young kids staring at you when you're talking, they're listening. They're filing that away on how I'm acting, what we're talking about, how we're presenting things. Are we bitching and complaining? Are we putting down the chief and the battalion chiefs, and are we talking shit? Are we positive? Are we negative? They're taking notes. It's no different than a child. They're children in the room, right? And so we haven't done a good enough job, in my opinion, when I was growing up as a young recruit, of listening to the older guys talk in a more positive way, in a more, how can we fix things? How can we change? Like, just, simply hearing conversations about a bad call between senior guys, or listening to how we can do that better next time. And so encouraging people to continue to do that and to have conversations. This is, I have to laugh every time I say it because it's funny. We have to have more conversations. It's simple. And it really doesn't have to be so technical. It's just the simple act of having these conversations. But the ROI of having that conversation is, I know that the young guy in the back is, or girl, obviously. Okay. We say guys. The rookie in the back is doing multiple things. One, they're taking notes, like I said. Number two, they're learning that it's okay to have these conversations. They're learning that this is how the process works. If we just left a full arrest and it was a shit show and there was a lot going on, and we can learn from every call, obviously, we should talk about it. And when they hear us discussing things, and not only what we did right, but what we did wrong, it teaches them that this is the process. This is how we do it. And that snowballs into everything else. If we start talking about things and making it okay, then when it gets to the other stuff, the heavier shit, people are going to be less afraid to say something like, hey, I'm having a hard time. Because the older you get, the more you realize there are a lot of us having a hard time. And we're all having a hard time on different levels. My hard time might be a joke to you. Your hard time might be the darkest place in the world. But we're all here. We all do the same job and we understand each other. Blue shirts get blue shirts. And so if we create these people that are used to hearing people talking and they don't know any different. A 6-month guy in the back of the truck is listening to how things work, because the ROI on that conversation that we had bouncing down the road to go get Chick-fil-A could turn into a lieutenant in 10, 15 years when that kid's a lieutenant, and the way he treats his crew and the way he conducts himself, okay, there's the ROI. Now, I'm going to be long gone. I'm going to be Duck Dynasty, hopefully still snowboarding, having a beer in my hand. I'm never going to see the ROI on that little conversation. But I'm realizing, and I want you to think about it and realize, is that they're listening and that there is an ROI on this stuff. There is an ROI on CIV. Whatever you want CIV to be for you and your department or you personally, as long as it's a conversation. I don't care. I'm not going to send you a form that breaks it down word for word. This is, as first responders, we're not black and white. You can't write out what to do in every situation. You're improvising. Conversation is ventilation. ROI. What's the ROI of that conversation? You may never know. I had this conversation, with a friend of mine in Colorado. We were like, you may say something to a rookie who just got hired, and in 20 years, you might bump into him and he may go, hey, you said something back in whenever, and it changed my life. And you're like, really? I said that? Because it's already happened to me. I've said things to people that I don't remember saying. They've come up to me personally and said, and we've had conversations about it. So there's a huge ROI in simply having a conversation. And like I said, it's funny. It's funny that we have to talk about it or remind ourselves to have conversations, but it's that easy. So it just kind of lights a fire under my ass. get a little lazy once in a while, get a little tired, get a little distracted, life happens, we all have things going on, wives and kids and jobs, and the boat breaks down, and but we got to remind ourselves that there's a simple little conversation can go a long way. The ROI on this, on just CIVing, whether it's at dinner or in the back of the truck or sitting behind the truck in the bay, these little moments, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, whether it's in front of 5 people or one, it doesn't matter. These can go a long way. Okay. And it makes a big difference. It really, really does. I know it does. You don't need much proof. I don't think most of us would go, well, I need proof that just having a conversation helps. No, it doesn't. You don't need that. Okay. So ROI of CIV. Okay. This is going to make a big difference in your career, in the careers of the people behind you. We will see the effects sometimes years later. You may never see the effects, but I guarantee you that it is improving. There is no way, in my opinion, that having conversations about the hard things to talk about, having conversations about the little things and the big things, there is no way, in my opinion, that cannot be a positive thing. Okay. It's impossible in my brain to think that having a conversation with somebody about what we do or how we do it, or just sharing our feelings or leaning on each other, it's never a bad thing. We have to stop losing people to suicide. We have to stop losing people to depression and, going through, drug addiction, multiple marriages. We're all kind of a mess, and we need to have more conversations about that. And the ROI may not be evident right away, and it may not come to you 5 or 10 years later, but it'll come. And maybe we don't need to see the effects of what we've been doing. We already know. We know that it's positive. So go out there, start having conversations, reminding ourselves that these are positive things, that everyone is listening. And what we're doing, the ROI on this is that we're creating better people, because the guy in the back is someday going to be in the front of the truck. And he is going to be a lieutenant or a captain, and he is going to be leading people. They're going to look to him for guidance. And when he has been brought up in a positive situation and conversation and working towards better, then he or she is going to be a better leader. Okay. And then their crews are going to be better. 15, 20, 30 years from now, the crews will hopefully be in a better place. Okay. ROI on the CIV. Okay. So once again, Captain Mark Edis, this one's for you again. Oh, all right. I love every one of you. If you need something, holler. Just say hi. Yeah, you've got something on your chest. Get it off. Talk to your friends. Talk to me. Talk to your captain. Talk to your priest. Talk to your dog. Okay. Just have a conversation. Everything is positive. If your lips are moving and you mean well, and this is positive stuff. The ROI on this is going to be 100-fold, 100x. Okay. Gary Vaynerchuk is going to be like, oh my God, the ROI, it's great. Okay. Stay safe. Stay together. I love you. And until next time.